During the events of Wrath, you could find her in Stormwind Harbor under a statue. She isn't there nowadays, even if you do the Northrend timeline through Chromie though. The wiki says that the comic contradicts her appearance in the harbor in-game, but I don't see a problem with saying that the events of the comic just happened before we ventured to Northrend. In the comic, they don't say that we have ventured to Northrend yet, just that the Scourge are appearing and making attacks, which they do attack Theramore before Valeera and Meryl take off to go rescue Medan. But for me it makes sense that after the events of the comic finished up, she came back to Stormwind and then went to join us out in Northrend. So I really wouldn't see it as a continuity error, personally, but you decide what works for you. Later, during the battle for the Undercity to bring Grand Apothecary Putris to justice for the Wrathgate event, Valeera was found alongside Brol Baremantle in the eerie, blighted lands of Tirisfal Glades. As chaos erupted and the battle intensified, the tide of the war turned with Jaina Proudmoore's intervention. With a surge of arcane power, she teleported Varian Wrynn, Valeera, and the Alliance forces away, bringing an abrupt end to their presence in the Forsaken City. Once again, Valeera found herself swept along the currents of Azeroth's ever-shifting conflicts, a rogue caught between kingdoms, allegiances, and the relentless march of fate. During the war against the Nightmare, Brol hinted that Valeera's recent brush with fell magic, wielded in her battle against Cho'Gall, may have reignited the arcane hunger she had long struggled to suppress. The echoes of addiction, a ghost of her past, seemed to claw their way back into her life, threatening to unravel the hard-won control she had fought to maintain. Not long after, during a visit to Stormwind, Brol sought out King Wrynn, hoping to learn of Valeera's whereabouts. Varian's response was laced with uncertainty. She had left the city weeks ago, slipping away without a word, her destination unknown to all. Even in her sworn service to House Wrynn, it seemed that the rogue remained a phantom, a whisper in the wind. Despite her absence, Valeera had bound herself to the Wrynn dynasty, dedicating her skills as a spy to the king. But her loyalty did not belong solely to Varian. Anduin had also come to rely on her. Over the years, the young prince found in her a confidant and an ally, one who could deliver his messages unseen, even without his father's knowledge. In a world where political intrigue and shifting loyalties reigned, Valeera moved between the shadows, a blade that cut through deception, unseen yet always watching. Beneath the gleaming spires of Dalaran, in the hidden lair of the Uncrowned, Valeera sits at a worn table. Faint torchlight dances across her daggers, illuminating a guarded urgency in her gaze. She explains that legendary blades, the fangs of the Devourer, have resurfaced. Once belonging to Mephistroth's assassin, they were last wielded by Akari Shadowgore, a master manipulator who vanished into the Broken Isles. The blades themselves are steeped in a past of blood and betrayal, rumored to siphon the life force of their victims. Understandably, both the Uncrowned and the Legion have a keen interest in securing such power. Valeera stands, indicating that the first lead lies here in the city. You traverse Dalaran, consulting dubious figures including Valzoon, Lucian Trias, and Desmond Gravesorrow in an effort to locate Akari. After investigating the lifeless body of Gravesorrow, you realize no immediate clues can be found. Eventually, Valzoon steps forward with the necessary information. He knows Akari's location, but demands a rune of portals in exchange. You find Valeera in a small shop, and mentions that stealing the rune from Dalaran's mages might prove problematic, but it is the only way. There is a flicker of mischievous excitement in her eyes. Stealth serves you well as you slip into a restricted part of the city's halls, evading patrolling mages and periodically erupting flame spires. Navigating past mana beasts and arcane wards, you finally grab the rune of portals. You retreat into Dalaran's sewers, where Valzoon awaits, impressed by your success. He reveals that Akari resides in the Ledgered Main Lounge. Inside the lounge, a few roguish guards grant you passage upstairs, a courtesy for the Uncrowned. You anticipate a fierce encounter with Akari, but find the struggle suspiciously easy. Once the adversary falls, it becomes clear that it was only a minion disguised to lead you astray. Enraged, you hurry back to Valzoon for answers. Valeera, indignant at the betrayal, rushes ahead. Upon arrival, you find Valzoon kneeling in surrender, claiming ignorance of the deception, and is willing to open a gateway to Akari's stronghold for you to finish her. Valeera doubts his honesty, yet lacking alternatives, you pass through a hastily conjured portal. Stepping through the portal, you stealth around the stronghold and eventually encounter Akari in hopes this will end her here. She exudes a cold cunning. fracturing into 3 shadowy copies the moment combat begins. Though cornering her seems possible, a demon emerges with brutal force, knocking you unconscious. When you awaken, you are locked in a cell, a guard looming nearby. A clever moment lets you seize a key from your jailer, slip free and retrieve your weapons. A lurking demon named Xerus falls to your blade, enabling you to press forward. Returning back to where you first encountered her, you overhear Akari communicating with Kil'jaeden, an ominous warning that time grows short.
Welcome, Lord of Flame. Welcome, Kil'jaeden.
You have done well, Akari. You have earned my blessing. Azir Manari Kirel, Hakim Manari Galad!
The fangs. Their power is beyond comprehension. I am your humble servant, my lord.
It is time for your true test. Use the fangs to dismantle Azeroth's kingdoms from within. Let their shattered husks pave our path to victory!
They will taste blood in your name.
You confront Akari just as her exchange ends. Though tense, the battle concludes swiftly, and her defeat yields the fangs of the Devourer at last. Yet as she expires, she triggers the destruction of her own stronghold. You flee from exploding walls and fell blasts, managing to escape through a portal into Dalaran's sewers in the nick of time, clutching the coveted blades. Valeera greets you in the Uncrowned's base, visibly relieved. She notes that you have succeeded, and the Uncrowned formally acknowledge your prowess. Embraced as a full member, a shadow among the shadows, you hold a pivotal role in Azeroth's clandestine war. The Uncrowned then turn their attention to the unsettling activities within SI-7 and its leader, Mathias Shaw. When Amber Kiernan was found dead, a cryptic letter clutched in her lifeless hand. It was Valeera who took up the task of deciphering its secrets. As she unraveled the message, she urged her fellow Uncrowned to keep SI-7 distracted, ensuring that her trail remained obscured in the ever-shifting web of spies and shadows. Her investigation led her to the legendary Raven's Eye, an artifact crafted by Javi long ago to empower his ravens, Hugin and Munin, before it was taken by Kurtalos Ravencrest. Valeera, determined to uncover the truth behind Amber's murder, tracked the gem to the depths of Blackrook Hold, where a fellow shadow of the Uncrowned retrieved it for her. With its power, she finally decrypted the hidden message, exposing a chilling revelation. Mathias Shaw had been replaced by the Dreadlord Deatharok.
We were on the Broken Shore mere hours before the Alliance and Horde fleets arrived. Mathias Shaw led our SI-7 team on a secret recon of the island. We were awaiting extraction.
Our evac is almost here. We have to warn the Alliance and Horde. They must turn their fleets around. The Broken Shore is a death trap. Anything, Lieutenant?
The island is crawling with demons. Far more than we anticipated.
So, you have uncovered our little secret. Let me assure you, your precious fleets will fall into our trap.
You'll never get away with it, Deatharok!
Oh, but I will. And you, Mathias Shaw, will help us to do it. Now I am the leader of SI-7.
Damn. We must find Mathias Shaw and use him to prove that Deatharok has taken his place.
Following the revelation that Mathias Shaw has been replaced by a Dreadlord, the Uncrowned launch a mission to free him from his captors and restore him to power. Intelligence points to Fell Soul Hold as his prison. To clear out the demons and create a distraction, you detonate explosives throughout the area, forcing the infernal forces to investigate. With their attention diverted, Taushe works in the locks holding Mathias captive, while you fend off waves of demonic reinforcements. When the Warden finally appears to crush your incursion, you defeat him in a decisive battle, freeing Mathias from his cage and escaping back to the Uncrowned's base. At the hideout, the group concludes that Deathrok has turned Stormwind's defenses against you, making infiltration the only option to restore Mathias' leadership of SI-7. Traveling to the city's outskirts, you scale the rock face and stealthily move through its streets, avoiding guards and suspicious onlookers. Your goal lies in Old Town, where Deathrok is reportedly orchestrating the deception. By the time you arrive, Mathias and his loyal allies are already locked in combat with the Dreadlord. Amid the chaos, you must identify which Shaw is real. Striking down the imposter, you confirm your guess was correct, restoring the true Mathias Shaw to command SI-7. With the threat neutralized and the city's defenses back in capable hands, you return to the Uncrowned's base to reflect on the success of your mission. When the hour came for Azeroth's greatest champions to purge the corruption festering within the colossal sword of Sargeras, Valeera stood among them, her daggers, anguish and sorrow, gleaming in the dim light. If the adventurer who answered Magni's call was not a rogue, it was she who carried the Kingslayers into battle, representing the Uncrowned and proving once more that even in the face of overwhelming darkness, the unseen blade could shape the fate of the world. Having remained a close confidant of the Rinns, Valeera now served as King Anduin Wrenn's personal spy and messenger, carrying missives so secret that even Mathias Shaw, head of SI-7, remained unaware of. Anduin, ever the idealist, tasked her with delivering a letter to Bane Bloodhoof, in an attempt to broker a meeting between the Forsaken and their living kin. Though Valeera admired Anduin's unwavering belief in peace, she could not help but warn him of the dangers that lie ahead. "Not everyone will support this," she cautioned, her voice heavy with experience. "You must tread carefully." When she returned to Stormwind, her report was bittersweet. Perith Stormhoof, acting on Bane's behalf, had refused to take the letter, fearing it would put his chieftain at risk. However, Valeera had convinced him to at least read its contents and relay the message to Bane in secret. In return, she handed Anduin a letter from Bane himself. Though the message was veiled in careful wording, it carried an unmistakable undercurrent. Bane was being pressured by Sylvanas to sever ties with the young king. To solidify his unspoken loyalty, Bane included a small fragment of his horn, a token of their enduring friendship. As Anduin turned the chip of horn over in his hands, a shadow of doubt crossed his face. His pool of trusted allies seemed to shrink with each passing day. Sensing his unease, Valeera stepped forward, placing a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "You will always have my friendship, Anduin," she promised. "But you are king now, and a king cannot afford to trust unwisely." Her words, spoken with quiet wisdom, carried the weight of experience. Anduin nodded, understanding that while peace was a noble goal, trust was a currency that could not be spent carelessly. The path ahead was uncertain, but at least in Valeera, he knew he had an ally who would never waver. Continuing to serve as a secret messenger between Bane and the Alliance, Valeera navigated the treacherous waters of political intrigue with the finesse of a seasoned rogue. After receiving Bane's message in Plunder Harbor, she stealthily boarded the Wind's Redemption in Borealis, slipping past guards and shadows alike. There, she informed Jaina Mathias and Halford Wormbane of Bane's desire to meet Jaina in secret outside the ruins of Theramore, a chance to atone for the wrongs the Horde had inflicted upon the Proudmoore family. Jaina's initial skepticism of Valeera was evident. It was only Mathias Shaw's quiet reminder that Valeera had been a trusted friend of Varian Wrynn that softened her resolve. Later, Valeera was present when Anduin and Varrock convened for their fateful meeting, standing watch over Charlemagne as the young king spoke with the aged orc warrior.
Anduin, Sylvanas' actions have threatened us all, and day by day, her power grows. If our world is to survive, we must strike while we still can. Meet with me, and we will speak.
So few.
How many?
Enough for one final assault. If that fails, we're done. If we end her reign, what kind of war chief will you be?
The horde I joined was birthed in blood, tainted by corruption. The road that led to the Dark Portal was long and wide, paved with the bones of innocence. We called it the Path of Glory. That was the great lie upon which the Horde was founded. That anything we did was honorable. Thrall, Rosen, they were not the true heirs to Blackhand's bloody legacy. Sylvanas Windrunner is.
No. No, this is the Horde. Led by you. Someone who has
Honor. I've never known honor. They deserve more. But the Horde is doomed to be shackled by the chains of the past.
The Horde has no exclusive claim to regrets. Arthas, Dalen, the ghosts of the past haunt us as well.
We could not fill the chasm between the Horde and Alliance if we labored 1,000 years. You know this.
Then what are we fighting for?
Their conversation, laden with the weight of war and honor, was a pivotal moment for the fate of the Horde and Alliance alike. When the battle was done and the Fourth War had claimed its final toll, Valeera attended Sourfang's funeral, a silent witness to the passing of a warrior whose courage had changed the world. Her work did not end there. Alongside Mathias Shaw, she bore grim news to King Anduin. His agents in SI-7 had failed to track down the elusive old god Azeroth. Moments later, she stood as a spectator to the unexpected arrival of Magni Bronzebeard, accompanied by an advisor shrouded in mystery. To her surprise, the figure was none other than Rathian, the Black Prince, returning with knowledge to aid in the battle against the ancient evil. Ever the vigilant courier, Valeera journeyed to the Great Seal within Dazar Alor, delivering a crucial message to the speaker of the Horde. Rathian had returned, and he now worked alongside Magni to halt the rise of N'Zoth. She urged the speaker to assist them, hoping against hope that the Horde and Alliance could set aside their ever-burning animosities to combat the true nightmare encroaching upon Azeroth. Within the nightmarish version of Stormwind, a twisted reflection of N'Zoth's desires, an eerie version of Valeera could be found, rallying adventurers to stand against a corrupted Mathias Shaw, one of many horrors within the old god's fabricated reality. With the Fourth War finally at an end and Azeroth vanquished, Valeera carried yet another vital missive. The Horde's leadership had gathered in Orgrimmar, convening at the embassy to decide the future of their faction. She delivered the summons, bearing witness that the Horde set aside the mantle of the War Chief in favor of the Horde Council. A new era had dawned, and though she had always walked in between the shadows of the two factions, Valeera recognized the significance of this moment. It was widely believed, though never confirmed, that it was she who delivered the terms of the peace agreement between the Alliance and Horde, forging a fragile peace out of the chaos of the war. In the aftermath, Valeera met with Mathias and Stormwind, sensing a shift in the Spymaster's usually guarded demeanor. "What will you do next?" she asked, curiosity laced in her tone. Shaw's answer was unexpected. There was someone he wished to know better. With a knowing smile, Valeera encouraged him, offering rare words of comfort. "Then find happiness while you can," she told him, knowing all too well how fleeting peace could be. She remained absent from the spotlight until the events of Shadows Rising, where she emerged as Anduin's envoy to Bane. Her mission was simple: discover whether the Horde knew anything about Sylvanas' presence in Zandalar. The news was discouraging. Bane had nothing to offer. Then, in an early version of the Shadowlands storyline, she was meant to greet adventurers in Orgrimmar and direct them to Lorthamar Theron, recounting the fate of those taken to the Maw. Eventually, however, Darian Mograine had placed her in that role. Despite the shift, her core stance remained the same: She refused to take part in the Alliance Horde political grandstanding, having dear friends in both. During that time, she spoke with Callie and Menethil, forging a friendship that bridged the gap between their respective worlds. In Dragonflight, a peculiar incarnation of Valeera alongside Varian and Brol appeared in the Field of Ferocity, deep within the Onaran Plains. Time displaced, they refused to leave through their portals until they were bested in combat. And at last, following the downfall of Dalaran, she found a quiet reprieve in Dornagal's Kindling Parlor, engaged in a spirited Hearthstone match with none other than Millhouse Manastorm. And that's going to do it for this one. Hopefully you did enjoy. Thanks for tuning in. See you in the next one. Take care of yourself.